Hello, Bill Molyneux here for Bill's History World with none other than Goober the Traveling Bear. And we are at George Washington's birthplace, and we're about to go into the visitor center. Follow Goober and his adventures. Hello everyone, Bill Molyneux for Bill's History World with none other than Goober the Traveling Bear, and we're with Park Ranger Jonathan. Can you tell us where we're at, sir?
So today you're at George Washington Birthplace National Monument here in Virginia in Colonial Beach. We're normally open Wednesdays to Sunday from 9 to 5, with the visitor center being 9:30 to 5, but some of the grounds are open 7 days a week.
Well, thank you very much, and Goober and I are going to go explore, and don't forget, all the money we make off these videos goes to a national park, and this month it's going to the Gettysburg Foundation. Well, I'm getting ready to watch the movie here at George Washington's birthplace. They have this overlook, and it's incredible. So the movie starts in about 5 minutes, and I'm going to wait for the movie. And I'm sitting out here relaxing with none other than Goober the Traveling Bear. And very good park service. Mr. Jonathan, the park ranger, the greeter. Phenomenal amount of information and very perky. So very nice day here this Sunday, July 28th. Well, before we go into the movie, they have several small exhibits here. Very nifty. Got coins, profile mint, and I got glare there. Oh, we actually have one of these mugs, shaving, I think it's a shaving mug. Very neat. And spoons. And then over here, of course, we have the overlook and a nice exhibit about animals here on the Washington's Birthplace farm. Guarding a legend. The iron gate was part of a fence that guarded the obelisk that stood on the location at the time believed to be the birth site of George Washington. 1932 Memorial House. Built in the 1890s, it was moved to the present location at the traffic circle. We will hit that on the way out. All right, let's go see if our movie's ready. Well, the theater here has a very nice informational program. It's about 14 minutes. It's well worth taking the time to watch it. It covers from when George Washington is born all the way up until he leaves this site and moves on to Ferry Farm.
We all have a special place, a piece of land, a favorite view we would like always to see again. It may be a place in our fondest memories, a childhood place where the world was young and the cares of the world were far away. George Washington, that place was here, where he was born along Pope's Creek in the great northern neck of Virginia. It was a view of one of the busiest waterways of the age, the Potomac River, brimming with traffic and travelers and news of the outside world. It was the right place at the right time. The northern neck was known as the Athens of the New World, and it was thriving. Within this cradle of 1,000,000 acres, bounded by the Potomac in the north and the Rappahannock River in the south, 3 of the first 5 presidents of the United States were born. For almost a century, the Washingtons had distinguished themselves in county affairs. They were vestrymen in the church, justices at court, officers in the militia, and members of the House of Burgesses. They had a reputation for strength and kindness and public service. Their roots were in this land.
All right, well, everyone, we have visited the exhibits, the movie. We are now going to take the 300-yard walk to the farm. So follow me and Goober the Traveling Bear as we explore George Washington's birthplace. Now, I did see this sign, no pets allowed, so just be aware of that. Luckily, Goober has his paperwork that he is an ambassador for history. The first people here, of course, the Native Americans. Very nice signage here, and we have a couple of different paths that we can take. We'll pause the camera and decide which one to use. All right, so we have a path along the water, and then we have this path to the farm. We're going to take this one, and we'll go up here to this marker. We'll pause the camera to walk to the farm. I won't bore you with a extended remembering George Washington. On December 14th, 1799, George Washington passed away. So out there is a monument dedicated to him, and when I leave in the ending of the video, I'll stop and we'll get that in this video too. Well, this farm actually has livestock on it, which is quite impressive. Very nifty. I believe I was here about, gosh, probably close to 35 years ago. And sort of interesting how time flies. All right, we're coming up on the farm itself. We'll pause the camera here. Well, for me, I vaguely remember being here, like I said earlier, but there's a lot to see here. I miscalculated my research. So if you come here, plan for at least a half a day. So here's some information regarding the different buildings we're about to see in our video. So we're walking into the farm, and of course we have several outbuildings. This looks like a stables, farmstead, and we're going to get up closer, check them all out, and just so you know, Huber the Traveling Bear says this place seems really cool. All right, we are here in the farmstead. We'll go left, right. I hope you enjoy this video. And as you all know, as I try to promote history, there are some people that can't get to these locations. Like my buddy Jack in Arizona. So, well, here's where our livestock are kept. Horses, oxen. Very cool. It's neat that this farm actually has livestock on it. All right. Let's do some more exploring. Follow Goober the Traveling Bear. Now, I can't read my pamphlet, carry Goober, and run a video camera. I have no helper with me. Quite often I'll have Josh or Troy or the Chuckleheads, Kevin and Walt, but today I'm alone. So I have to do the best I can. So this is the demonstration shop. So we have the blacksmith bellows there. And we've been doing a lot of videos on blacksmiths recently. The tool shop, the woodworker shop, and we're going to move over here. There's a lathe. Now, my father had worked for IBM way before they made computers, and he was a lathe worker for metal. This, of course, is a lathe for they make wooden dowels for porches and chairs. And you notice they have a lot of neat tools and Stonehouse history people. That nice couple, they would probably really like to see this room. All right, we're gonna head down the path some more. So some type of we have a wheelbarrow in there and some wagon wheels. And I really need to stress this. This is a site that is huge. There is a lot to see here. Now, I'm not sure what these buildings are. As I'm getting closer, I'm pretty sure there's some kind of, they have the small door. They may be chicken coops, but I honestly am not sure. And I've not run into any sheep or goats yet. All right, we'll pause the camera here. Well, here's another outbuilding. I just thought I'd get a close-up of this door. Look at the door latch. So it's a sliding dowel, and you would push that in and out to open the door. I also like to say these brick walkways are really nice. And sitting here on the river, very picturesque. And we also have another restroom here. Now Lisa, my wife, I think she'd have a tough time walking all of this. This is not a short walk. Walt Leach and Kevin, just so you guys know, this is a good 400 yards from the visitor center. Well, this is the brick structure. This is built in, I think, 1932. They did not have the exact blueprints, so they weren't quite sure what the structure was. The Wakefield National Memorial Association built the brick house before you in 1932 as a memorial to George Washington. Because no records existed regarding the original appearance, the birth house they built is based on an ideal, the house in which they thought George Washington should have been born in. Heavily influenced by the colonial revival movement, inspired, nostalgic, and the spirit of undertaking were more important to the WNMA than historical accuracy. Their effort was about honoring Washington by evoking a sense of reverence, grandeur that they thought befitted him as a Revolutionary War hero and our country's first president. Despite ideals that were ultimately out of touch with the values of an emerging historic preservation movement in the United States, colonial revival influence groups were critical to saving thousands of historic sites across the country. Without the political savvy and tireless fundraising of these groups, many sites, including this one, may have been lost. So, they have a question here. What is more important to you, historical accuracy or honoring the spirit of a person, place, or historic site? All right, we're going to zip around the site here of our home. And let me tell you, I missed a tour. It's 11 and 1 and 2. And Goober the Traveling Bear and I just can't do everything. But my wife would really love it here. And Lisa, I hope we can come here this next month together. And you'll be feeling better. Come on this. I don't know how to get you around all this walking paths, but I'll figure it out. Speaking of walking paths, there's some beautiful benches out here along the walking paths with historical markers. And I believe that's the Potomac River. All right, we have more buildings to check. All right, everyone. There is a lot to see here. And the guided tours and shops are just starting to open. I got here very early, so I cannot tour the home itself. This is a colonial kitchen. And of course, the colonial kitchen, like most all colonial homes of the time, the kitchen was always separate from the main house um, due to the fact that fires could often erupt from kitchens, so they didn't want it nearby to burn the house down. You'll notice the staircase going up. There's our door. And beautiful fireplace. Just a lot of food, vegetables, turkey, oranges. Now over here, the 1931. So this is set up when they started to turn this into a historic site. So we have some furniture from that time period, some magazines, which is a nice touch, and a radio. And this is to pay the construction 1931 in the colonial revival style. This building served as a kitchen demonstration area as well as an office since that time. The kitchen area has remained and the former office spaces house many different exhibits. Currently, this space is furnished to evoke a sense of the 1930s era during which the park was created. We invite you to enjoy it as a place of relaxation and reflection. So they have some magazines laid out, comics, very nice touch. All right, and George Washington's birthplace, very nice. It's a shame I cannot visit the interior of the home, but I'm a solid hour out of sync with the park service today. All right, let's pause our camera here. Well, we are leaving the kitchen now and the exhibit in the 1930s. We have a little gazebo here. Lots of benches. I will say, it's incredible. I'd love to come here with a little picnic lunch with Lisa. And I mean, if you do have a walking issue, this site has a lot of benches. So here we have more than a garden. So we're going to go check out the gardens. All right. And of course, these garden beds contained a variety of colonial era flora that often had a disorganized appearance compared to the gardens of the orderly layout. And we're going to go and walk around to the garden side. Now we're at the intersection of the garden. To my right is the buildings we just visited, along with the main home and the kitchen. Now, further along is the garden area. And then our path back, we're going to see about taking the lower path along the water. So next we'll go visit the garden. Well, they're doing a small tour of the garden, so I'm not speaking too loud. And but we have a sundial here. And then we have one heck of a big birdhouse. We have boxwood. And our park ranger is giving a tour on the gardens is phenomenal. I listened to her for a few minutes. And she knows her plants and gardens exceptionally well. So if you were a plant lover like my wife, this site has a beautiful garden. And right now they're going over the herbal medicine section of the garden. And once again, can't stress this enough, there are park benches everywhere, because this is a large park, very large. Now, then going out, we see our river and our pathway. Well, we have to hit this beautiful tree, bush, whatever it is. I know someone out there will know what this is. As we hit the last of the garden, park ranger is very busy giving tours. I don't know if we'll be able to get a minute with her or not. And the sundial is very cool. A place of rose and thyme and scented earth, and a place the world forgot. Very nice. I am here with Miss Pat, and she knows everything about gardens, and she's been well. Can you tell me about this plant here?
This is the Colonial Revival Garden at the George Washington Birthplace. So this was planted here by the Master Gardeners of Northern Neck. I'm a Park Service volunteer talking about the colonial plants, and it's divided into several areas. You have the household herbs, you have the culinary herbs, you have dyeing herbs that were used to dye the cloth, and then you have medicinal herbs. So tansy is in all four of those beds because in colonial times this humble weed was used for, hang on tight, it was used for worming your children, unfortunately. It was used to make a liver tonic to cleanse the liver after the winter. It was used to control insects in your home. It was used to make a tonic that people would put on meat. There was a cure for gout that was used. These things are no longer considered safe, so please don't try this at home. To dye cloth, it takes a pound of these flowers to dye 1 pound of wool, and it's a very intensive process. It was also used for curing meat, so they would put this in the barrels with the meat, and for that purpose it was also used for embalming bodies. There's no proof that anyone was embalmed with this on this site. We have no way of proving it, but now it's just a really interesting plant, and when you see it on the side of the road, you know it was a very useful plant for the colonials. So anyway, thank you.
Well,
Have
thank
a
you.
beautiful day.
Thank you very much. And this site is amazing. I hope people will
you.
see this video and come out and visit you. Thank you. Well, I want to close out from the garden. Miss Pat was phenomenal. There's the garden there. And I just want to say how wonderful she was in everything as far as discussing the garden. I'm hoping to come back and interview her again for more detailed information on the garden. But right now we found the significance of a birthplace. George Washington's father, Augustine Washington, purchased this land in 1718. In addition to growing tobacco and managing the business of the plantation, Augustine owned an iron furnace and held several leadership positions in the community. Mary was equally busy raising children, managing the activities of the enslaved and indentured servants, and ensuring the household ran smoothly. So, young George Washington also observed how his mother chose not to remarry, a somewhat unusual choice for a woman in the 18th century. Her decision not to remarry meant her responsibility for running a plantation and providing for the family fell largely on her shoulders, but it also legally protected her children's inheritance. George's childhood experiences, Augustine's, Mary's examples, and the culture into which he was born shaped George's worldview and influenced the person he became. Okay, well, we're going to move on and we'll follow this path a little ways. I'm going to go ahead and pause the camera here. Now, there's several markers along the path, and if I stopped and read every one of those, you'd probably get bored. So we are just going to continue on our walking path. And just to let you know, as I keep mentioning, there are benches all through this wonderful site for you to stop and relax. I'm laughing because as I walk the trail, I love my wife Lisa dearly, but I don't think I'm laughing from a memory at Mount Vernon. We were on the walking trail going up the hill from the boat, and she actually just told me to throw her in the brush and let the wolves get her in the wilderness. She just couldn't walk any further. So she had bad shoes for that trip. I'm just reminiscing. So we're back at the visitor center. We're going to be closing out soon. We have to hit the big monument yet. Well, there's a really neat section of history boards here covering the War of 1812 and the Battle of North Point, which Goober and I have covered, and of course Fort McHenry, where my board games are sold, the War of 1812. Well, we've made it out to the George Washington Memorial here with Goober the Traveling Bear. Well, believe it or not, I'm a little bit out of breath. I'm trying to lose weight, but let's walk around this monument a bit and see what we see. So we have a little bit of wind, but I have the dead cat muffler over my microphone, so I'm hoping we're not going to have an issue. But it's this monument was moved, and I forgot the date. Oh my goodness gracious, I'm sorry. I think it was in the 30s. There was a wrought iron fence around it at one time. All right, we'll get to the other side without me getting hit by a car in this traffic circle. All right, and here's the other side. So we've hit all four sides, and really an incredible sight. If you have not been here, I haven't been here since probably 1990. But we're going to go to the burial ground next, and it's down that path. So follow me and Goober the Traveling Bear. Well, at the distant end of the field in front of you stood the home of Henry Brooks, the first owner of much what became Pope's Creek Plantation. As you look towards the house site, perhaps you can sense the isolation Henry Brooks must have felt when he settled here in 1651. Excuse me, everyone. He stood on the frontier of Virginia's tobacco culture. During the next 12 years, many others followed him to the area, and Brooks steadily sold off his 1,000 acres. By 1662, the area around Pope's and Bridges Creeks was dotted with at least 8 modest farms, more than would exist here a century later. Wow. Now, I need to say, there's picnics tables, picnic areas, pavilions, a beach. There is so much to see at George Washington's birthplace. You could bring the family here, spend the day. All right, Goober's Traveling Bear is with me, of course, and we're going to walk across to the cemetery. Now, we all know that George Washington himself is not buried at this cemetery, but he is at Mount Vernon. And let's cross the street. Now, in the world of pets, there are some parts of this park where pets are allowed and other parts where they're not. So if you are bringing a dog, a cat, or whatever, or a bear, you may have some sections of the park your loved one with fur is not welcome at. So we're going to pause the camera here and get up to the cemetery. Well, here we are at the John Washington House, 1664. John Washington, the great grandfather of George Washington, built a small house on this site. From these modest beginnings, a powerful, prominent Virginia family would arise. During his 13 years here, John Washington attended to his farm, his growing business interests, his ascending social position. He purchased extensive tracts of land throughout Westmoreland County and as far north as Little Hunting Creek, a tract today called Mount Vernon. Ever heard of Mount Vernon? Well, he served in the Virginia legislature as an officer of the militia, justice of the peace. When he died in 1677, he left an estate that included 8,500 acres. All right, and there's our building. And I'm here on a beautiful, beautiful Sunday for this George Washington birthplace video. Now we're walking up to the cemetery. If you follow my videos, Goober the Traveling Bear stays in his Scoots barbecue travel bag in cemeteries. I do that out of respect. We have one exception when we go visit our dear friends Rob Wingert and Woody Elwood Chris, the famous historians, in Gettysburg a few times a year. Goober was friends with them, and Goober does visit their grave sites, and we plant some flowers each year. So here we are at the burial ground. We'll read our placard. 3 generations of George Washington's forebears are buried here. The first burial was made in 1668, where John Washington's wife Anne and 2 small children died. During the next 30 years, at least 9 more Washingtons, including George Washington's grandparents, were interned here. The cemetery today bears no resemblance to the cemetery George Washington visited during his youth. In 1930, the Wakefield National Memorial Association constructed the wall around the grounds, consolidated the graves in a single casket, and interned the remains in a rebuilt vault. So, I gotta say, I've been reading a lot about the Wakefield National Memorial Association, and it seems like they did one heck of a lot of work here for preserving this historic site. So here we are, very serene. We will go, I guess, left to right. And it's very hard to read this and run the camera, and with lighting issues. In the memory of Captain Augustus Washington, son of Lawrence Washington, born in 1694. This ancient brick vault beneath this stone was rebuilt and remains therein. Possibly 12 burials joining graves were reinterred here April 28, 1930 by the Wakefield National Memorial Association. 1930, we're in 2024. There would be no one alive that would remember other than maybe a very young child. But everyone that was responsible for helping with this cemetery have long since passed away also, unless someone lived to be over 100. Well, over here lies the body of Jane, wife Augusta Washington, born at Pope's Creek, Virginia, 1699, died in 1729. Here's the body of John Washington, son to Captain Lawrence Washington, who departed his life January 1690. All right. Amazing, amazing little cemetery here. Very nice how they did such work nearly 100 years ago. This is in memory of Captain John Washington, son of George Washington, born Washington Pasha in 1694, died in 1678. And our last one over here, in memory of Colonel Augustine Washington, son of Augustine and Jane Bully Warfling, born in 17-something-20, and died in 1769. And I actually spent a little time on the cemetery. I hope you're not bored, but I do have some viewers that really enjoy more detail than me just running around quickly with the camera. And I want to do a very slow view. This site is incredible. I go to these sites so often, and I'm just amazed of all the history that America has. And I recently interviewed Ron Perelman, and he gave me some very nice accolades about what I'm doing in trying to promote history and preserve it through video. And this is one of these times that I hope somebody is watching this video and will appreciate it. Well, everyone, Bill Molyneux here with Goober the Traveling Bear, George Washington's birthplace. We're closing out our video. Thought it appropriate to do the beginning, the great-grandfather George Washington. This is where it all began, the founder of our country. This is the great-grandfather's house location. You have to visit George Washington's birthplace. A lot to offer: trails, historic buildings. They have oxen. They have a horse. They have livestock. You don't often see that. It's also very tranquil here. So I'm gonna close this out with just a simple, like always, stay safe, be kind, be courteous. Please consider visiting a historic site near you. Thank you again, and please don't forget to subscribe and tell your friends about my channel.